Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. My guest is Jonny Clark, the National Director of YWAM in Ireland. And in this episode, he discusses bringing youth who live in areas of conflict together and to share their Christianity.
And then shortly after we started our project in the Shankill, there was a feud within the UDA itself. People were killed during our first training course. We call it a discipleship training course. But yet we felt really alive, and I felt like I could be anywhere in the world, but I don't want to be anywhere else but the Lower Shankill. You know, it's a funny kind of thing to say, you know, because it's an area of inner city poverty. All the normal social ills that you find in inner city places are there, plus the whole legacy of the Northern Irish conflict. So not just drugs and, kind of gangsterism, it's actually kind of religious sectarian gangsterism. And so we were there during that time, and we started to offer scholarships to young people from areas of conflict. So we started to bring young South Africans, particularly Zulu guys, from a project outside Durban that we were working with. We started to bring young Palestinians from the West Bank, Israelis from northern Israel, Lebanese guys. Since then we've had Syrian refugees, Sri Lankan, lots of different people from different places. And along with other locals and Westerners from Europe or North America would come and spend 6 to 12 months with us. And we would try to teach them a faith that was rooted in a sense that God's work is primarily about reconciling people, that the greatest commandment is to love God, but the second is just like that, which is to love your neighbor. And who's your neighbor? Well, in the narrative in the Gospels, your neighbor is the Samaritan, which for the Jewish people was their ultimate enemy. So to love God, according to Jesus, is to love your enemy. And there's no two ways about it. There's no way you can kind of try to dumb that down or kind of say, well, it's, no, I think very clearly in the Christian teaching is this sense that the defining characteristic of a Christian is that you love your enemy. That Jesus on the cross saying, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, is the mandate for a follower of Jesus. You can't say you're a follower of Jesus and hate your enemy, you can't do that,
There's some things that, part of that little story I've got that connects to your film, which I'd like to gradually sort of explore. For me, my journey led me to Clonard Monastery. And I found myself, I was living in East Belfast at that time, and I then found myself crossing over to West Belfast I got called into a Catholic church. And I found myself then becoming part of that community. How did your journey, in the film, you visit Clonard Monastery, so how did your journey connect you to Clonard Monastery from where you were?
Yeah, well, Clonard is really just off the Falls Road, and the Falls Road really runs just right next to the Shankill Road, so that's in many ways, those two streets are kind of the iconic streets or infamous streets during the Troubles, where so much violence was either dreamed up or perpetrated. And, so when we were living in the Shankill, Clonard was very close by, and I had known of Clonard because it had been probably the Catholic parish most involved in reconciliation work, I think you could safely say, particularly the relationship between Father Jerry Reynolds and Reverend Ken Newell, who was the Presbyterian minister at Fitzroy Presbyterian. And so Fitzroy and Clonard had this real close kind of connection, and then other churches kind of got brought into the spiral of that, the vortex of that relationship, that friendship, which actually is a beautiful model of peace and reconciliation. Two church leaders developing a friendship, bringing their own churches into that, and then others being drawn into that kind of friendship. And so I'd heard of Clonard, heard of Father Jerry Reynolds and Father Alec Reid, who was very instrumental in the peace process. And then we, as we developed our community in Belfast, a friend of mine, Padraig Otuma, joined us, and who's now actually the director of Carmila. And Padraig was a Catholic guy and a brilliant guy, and so he rented a house off the Falls Road, Clonard Rise, and started to get involved in Clonard Monastery, which then drew me in. So he really helped us to get into find that relationship really with Clonard. So yeah, we started to befriend Father Jerry Reynolds, who was a beautiful man. He sadly died 2 years ago from Limerick, and Ed Peterson, who was a reconciliation worker there at Clonard. And we started to do projects together. Sometimes we'd do kind of clean up projects in the area where our young people would come and do work there. I remember doing a kind of a drive in a big bus around Belfast, kind of praying in different places with a bunch of Catholic and Protestant young people, which for them all was eye-opening because they were seeing parts of the city they'd never seen before. So yeah, and we developed a really lovely friendship with Father Jerry, and he was just a beautiful man that I never tire of thinking about, because he just was a sweet, lovely, caring man who modeled what it is to be Jesus, I think.
We have more on the way, so please subscribe to this channel and check out the link below if you'd consider becoming a patron to help us keep making more content. Thanks for watching.